Acts chapter 14. But it came to be in Iconium, according to the same happening, that they came into the synagogue and spoke in such a manner, so that a many numerous fullness of Jews, besides also Hellenes, faithed. But the Jews, having been incompliant, roused on and treated badly the souls of those out of the nations against the brothers. Hence that abides, they spent time there for an adequately long time, being frank on account of the Lord, the testifying one on account of the word of his grace, the giving one, so that signs and wonders became through their hands. But the fullness of the city was torn apart, and these that abides were together with the Jews, but those together with the apostles. But as there came to be a haste by those of the nations, besides also of the Jews together with their archpersons, in order to treat them wickedly and to cast them with stones. They perceived this connection, and down fled into the cities of Lycaonia, into Lystra and Derbe, and the region round about, and there they were as well announcing ones. And a man in the region of Lystra, in ability mighty in the feet, had seat there, already limping out from his mother's body cavity, who had never walked. This one did at first not hear from the wording Paul, who, stretching his gaze like intently to him, and having perceived that he has faithing to be saved, said with a great voice, "Rise, stand correctly on your feet." And he changed out his position and walked. Besides, the throngs, having perceived what Paul had done, lifting on up the voice in Lycaonian, saying, "The gods, having been made human-like, have descended to us." Besides, they called Barnabas Zeus, but Paul Hermes, because he was the leading one concerning the word. Besides, the priest of Zeus, the one being before the city, bringing bulls and wreaths onto the gates, wanting to sacrifice together with the throngs. But as hearing this, the apostles Barnabas and Paul, rending thoroughly their raiments, jumped out into the throng, crying and saying, "Men, wherefore do you do this? Also we are humans, suffering ones like you, well announcing to you to turn on from these vanities, on to the living God, who made the heaven and the earth, land, and the sea, and all that is in them, who in the generations bygone permitted all the nations to go in their ways, although yet he did not leave himself untestified, working the good, having seed in heaven, giving you water torrents and fruit-carrying terms, in filling up your hearts with nourishment and altogether well-mindedness." And even saying this, they hardly down reposed the throng, not to sacrifice to them. But Jews came on from Antioch and Iconium, and having made compliant the throngs, and having stoned Paul, they dragged him out of the city, concluding that he had come to death. But while the learning ones were forming a circle around him, he rose up and came into that same city. And after making adequate many learning ones, they returned below into the city of Lystra and into Iconium and into Antioch, firming up the souls of the learning ones, beside calling them to abide in the faithing, and saying that through many afflictions it is binding for us to come into the regency of God. But they chose for themselves preceders by stretching out of the hand in every outcalled, and praying with fastings. They set them beside to the Lord, into whom they had faith. And having come through into Pisidia, they came into Pamphylia. And having spoken the word of the Lord into the city of Perga, they descended into Attalia. And from there they sailed away towards Antioch, from whence coming they were ones having been personally given to the grace of God for the work which they completed. But having become led by and having led together the outcalled, they upannounced as much as God had done with them, and that he had opened a door of faithing to the nations. And they spent there not a short time together with the learning ones.